ExamPrep.School. Tennessee Public Insurance Adjuster Exam, exam code INSTN-PAdj60. There are 6 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. General property insurance product knowledge. Pertinent to public adjusters. Property and casualty insurance terms and related concepts. Property and casualty policy provisions. Tennessee laws and regulations. Pertinent to public adjusters. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1, according to 10, Code Ann, Section 56-6-113. Which of the following actions is explicitly within the Tennessee Commissioner of Insurance's authority during an administrative hearing? A. Impose civil monetary penalties at the hearing's conclusion without further review. B. Issue subpoenas compelling the attendance of witnesses and production of documents. C. Facilitate private settlements between insurers and claimants. D. Grant temporary insurance adjuster licenses to unlicensed individuals. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The Commissioner's statutory hearing powers include issuing subpoenas to require witness testimony and the production of books or records as set forth in 10 Code Ann, Section 56-6-113. Reason A is not correct. Civil penalties under Tennessee law require an administrative order and are not assessed immediately at the hearing without further proceedings. Reason C is not correct. Administrative hearings are not intended for the Commissioner to negotiate or facilitate private settlements. Reason D is not correct. Licensing authority is separate from hearing procedures and does not include issuing temporary licenses during hearings. Question 2. Under 10, Code Ann. Section 56-6-107. Which of the following grounds authorizes the Commissioner of Insurance to initiate an administrative hearing against a public adjuster licensee? A. Failure to submit a timely license renewal application. B. Willful misrepresentation or concealment of material facts. C. Neglecting to display a current license certificate at the business address. D. Failing to maintain a corporate surety bond. The correct answer is B. 10. Code Ann. Section 56-6-107 identifies willful misrepresentation or concealment of material facts as a statutory ground for the Commissioner to initiate disciplinary hearings against licensees. Reason A is not correct. Late renewal may incur penalties, but is not itself listed as a statutory hearing ground under this provision. Reason C is not correct. Displaying the license is a record-keeping requirement, not a ground for initiating an administrative hearing in this section. Reason D is not correct. Bond maintenance is a licensing requirement. Failure to maintain a bond is handled through different enforcement mechanisms. Question 3. A homeowner files a complaint with the Tennessee Commissioner alleging that a public adjuster misrepresented policy benefits. The Commissioner initiates an investigation. Which action can the Commissioner lawfully take during this investigation? A. Subpoena the public adjuster's business records and administer oaths pursuant to the Commissioner's investigative power. B. Levy a fine against the public adjuster before a formal hearing is conducted. C. Seize the adjuster's personal assets to secure potential restitution for the homeowner. D. Order the adjuster to attend alternative dispute resolution with the homeowner. The correct answer is A. The Commissioner is empowered to issue subpoenas for documents and administer oaths in investigations. Civil penalties and asset seizures require a formal hearing or court order, and facilitating ADR is not within the Commissioner's statutory investigative authority. Reason B is not correct. Civil penalties may only be imposed following a formal hearing, not during the investigatory phase. Reason C is not correct. Seizing personal assets is not within the Commissioner's investigatory powers and would require a court judgment. Reason D is not correct. Ordering alternative dispute resolution is beyond the Commissioner's statutory authority in an investigation. Question 4. Which of the following must an individual satisfy to be eligible for a Tennessee public adjuster license? A. Maintain a principal place of residence or business within Tennessee. B. Document at least 5 years of verifiable claims adjusting experience. C. Possess a bachelor's degree in insurance or risk management. D. Serve a minimum 2-year apprenticeship under a licensed public adjuster. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is maintaining a Tennessee residence or business address, as state law requires applicants to reside or have a business location in Tennessee. Reason B is not correct. There is no 5-year experience requirement specified in Tennessee law for initial licensure. Reason C is not correct. A college degree in insurance or risk management is not required under state regulations. Reason D is not correct. No apprenticeship period is mandated for public adjuster applicants in Tennessee. Question 5. Under Tennessee law, what is the minimum age an individual must attain at the time of applying for a public adjuster license? A. 18 years old. B. 19 years old. C. 21 years old. D. 25 years old. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is 18 years old, as state regulation sets the minimum age for a public adjuster applicant at 18. Reason B is not correct. Tennessee law does not specify 19 as the minimum age for this license. Reason C is not correct. There is no requirement that an applicant be 21 years old to apply. Reason D is not correct. A minimum age of 25 is not set by Tennessee public adjuster regulations. Question 6. Under Tennessee regulations, which of the following convictions would disqualify an applicant based on failing the good moral character standard for a public adjuster license? A. A prior felony conviction for theft by deception. B. A misdemeanor DUI conviction 5 years ago. C. Multiple unpaid parking citations. D. A civil suit judgment for breach of contract. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is a felony theft by deception conviction, as Tennessee rules deem convictions involving fraud or dishonesty as disqualifying for good moral character. Reason B is not correct. A DUI misdemeanor is not automatically disqualifying under the good moral character standard. Reason C is not correct. Parking citations do not factor into the moral character evaluation for licensing. Reason D is not correct. Civil breach of contract judgments are not grounds for failing the good moral character requirement. Question 7. As part of the fingerprinting requirement for Tennessee public adjuster applicants, which action is required? A. Submit fingerprints electronically through an approved vendor for state and federal background checks. B. Provide 2 hard copy fingerprint cards directly to the Department of Commerce. C. Upload personal fingerprint scans via the licensee online portal without third-party verification. D. Have fingerprints recorded only by a local law enforcement agency without state clearance. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is submission of electronic fingerprints through an approved vendor, as required for both Tennessee and FBI background checks. Reason B is not correct. Hard copy fingerprint cards are no longer accepted for public adjuster applicants. Reason C is not correct. Self-uploaded scans through the portal are not permitted without an approved vendor. Reason D is not correct. Fingerprinting must include both state and federal clearance, not just local law enforcement. Question 8. Patricia, a licensed public adjuster in Mississippi, maintains her primary residence there but often handles claims in Tennessee. After her Mississippi public adjuster license expired, she wants to continue adjusting claims in Tennessee. According to Tennessee law, which license must Patricia obtain to legally practice as a public adjuster in Tennessee? A. Non-resident Tennessee public adjuster license obtained via reciprocity. B. Tennessee independent adjuster permit restricted to insurer employees. C. Temporary Tennessee public adjuster license valid for 30 days. D. Resident Tennessee public adjuster license obtained by examination and application. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is resident public adjuster license, because non-resident applicants must hold an active public adjuster license in their home state. And temporary or independent adjuster permits do not apply to public adjusters. Reason A is not correct. A non-resident license requires an active home state license, which is not present here. Reason B is not correct. An independent adjuster permit applies to insurer employees, not independent public adjusters. Reason C is not correct. Tennessee does not issue temporary public adjuster licenses valid for brief periods. Question 9. Under Tennessee law, a public adjuster license expires on which of the following dates after issuance? A. On the same calendar day exactly 24 months after issuance. B. On December the 31st of the second year after issuance. C. On the last day of the licensee's birth month following the 24-month period. D. 30 days after the issuance anniversary in odd-numbered years. The correct answer is C. The law specifies that a public adjuster license runs for a 2-year term and then expires on the last day of the licensee's birth month after that 24-month period, aligning expiration with the licensee's birth month rather than the exact issuance date or calendar year. Reason A is not correct. Expiration is not set to the exact issuance date, but shifted to the end of the birth month. Reason B is not correct. Expiration is not tied to December 31st, but to the licensee's birth month. Reason D is not correct. There is no 30-day post-anniversary extension tied to odd-numbered years. Question 10. What fee must accompany each biennial renewal application for a Tennessee public adjuster license excluding any penalties? A. $145. B. $175. C. $150. D. $200. The correct answer is C. Tennessee requires a $150 biennial renewal fee for public adjuster licenses. This amount is set by statute and excludes any late penalties or additional processing charges. Reason A is not correct. The fee is not $145. Statute specifies $150. Reason B is not correct. No statutory basis exists for a $175 renewal fee. Reason D is not correct. The renewal fee is below $200 as defined by regulation. Question 11. A public adjuster failed to submit a timely renewal application to the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, and their license expired 6 months ago. The adjuster wants to reinstate the license without retaking the examination. Under Tennessee law, what must the adjuster do to regain an active license? A. Retake the licensing examination, submit proof of required continuing education, and pay the standard renewal fee. B. Pay the standard renewal fee and provide proof of required continuing education, with no penalty within 1 year. C. Pay the renewal fee plus a 50% penalty and provide proof of required continuing education. D. Complete an additional 8 hours of continuing education, submit proof, and pay the standard renewal fee. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that Tennessee allows reinstatement within 1 year by paying the renewal fee plus a 50% penalty and submitting proof of continuing education. Reason A is not correct. Retaking the licensing exam is only required if more than 1 year has lapsed since license expiration. Reason B is not correct. This choice overlooks that Tennessee requires a 50% penalty fee for late renewal within the first year after expiration. Reason D is not correct. Additional continuing education beyond the statutory requirement is not mandated for late renewals within 1 year. Question 12. Under Tennessee law, which of the following elements is required in every written contract for public adjuster services? A. An arbitration clause binding the parties to resolve disputes. B. A guarantee that the claim will be approved by the insurer. C. A statement specifying the maximum compensation the adjuster may charge. D. A non-compete provision restricting the insured from hiring other adjusters. The correct answer is C. The statute mandates that a public adjuster contract disclose the maximum compensation to be charged. The other options are not statutory requirements for such contracts. Reason A is not correct. Arbitration clauses are optional contract provisions, not required by statute. Reason B is not correct. Guaranteeing claim approval is prohibited and not mandated by Tennessee adjuster regulations. Reason D is not correct. Non-compete restrictions are not recognized or required under Tennessee public adjuster law. Question 13. Which disclosure must a Tennessee public adjuster include in the written service contract regarding third-party vendor referrals? A. A representation of the insurer's coverage scope for the claim. B. An estimate of the total claim settlement amount expected. C. Any direct or indirect financial interest the adjuster has in referred vendors. D. A confidentiality agreement protecting client records. The correct answer is C. Tennessee law requires public adjusters to disclose any financial interest they hold in vendors they recommend. The other disclosures listed are not mandatory under the statute. Reason A is not correct. Describing the insurer's coverage scope is part of claim assistance, not a mandatory contract disclosure. Reason B is not correct. Estimating the claim settlement amount is advisory, not a required disclosure. Reason D is not correct. Confidentiality agreements may be included but are not statutorily required disclosures. Question 14. After a severe storm, a public adjuster meets with a policyholder at the damaged property and immediately begins evaluating the roof without having provided a written contract. According to Tennessee law, when must the public adjuster present the written contract to the policyholder? A. Prior to beginning repair negotiations with the insurer. B. Within 15 days after filing the application for a public adjuster license. C. Before submitting any damage estimate to the insurer. D. At the first face-to-face meeting before performing any adjustment services. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is at the first face-to-face meeting before performing any adjustment services, because Tennessee law requires that a public adjuster present a written contract to the insured before providing any services. Reason A is not correct. The requirement is to present the contract before performing any services, not just before negotiations. Reason B is not correct. Tennessee statutes do not tie contract presentation to the license application timeline. It must occur before services, not licensing. Reason C is not correct. Contract presentation is required before any adjustment services, not specifically linked to submitting estimates. Question 15. Under Tennessee law, which of the following constitutes an unfair claim settlement practice by a public adjuster? A. Providing policyholders with reasonable explanations regarding coverage denial. B. Promptly acknowledging receipt of claims and commencing investigation. C. Paying a lawful claim promptly after proof of loss is furnished. D. Misrepresenting pertinent facts or policy provisions related to coverages at issue. The correct answer is D. This practice is prohibited because misrepresenting facts or policy provisions to claimants falls under the statutory definition of unfair claim settlement practices in Tennessee, ensuring honest communication in the claims process. Reason A is not correct. Providing reasonable coverage explanations is mandated for transparency, not considered unfair. Reason B is not correct. Promptly acknowledging and investigating a claim is a required fair practice, not unfair. Reason C is not correct. Paying a lawful claim promptly complies with fair settlement obligations rather than violating them. Question 16. Under the ISOHO 3 homeowners policy, which of the following is included in the definition of coverage A? Dwelling. A. Detached storage shed used for personal workshop. B. Materials and supplies on the residence premises intended for altering the dwelling. C. Reason B is not correct. A permanent revocation is reserved for serious or repeated violations and would be unduly harsh for a first offense with cooperation. D. Outdoor swimming pool located on the premises. The correct answer is B. The dwelling definition includes building materials and supplies on the residence premises intended for use in constructing, altering, or repairing the dwelling. Reason A is not correct. Detached structures such as sheds are classified as other structures under coverage B, not part of coverage A. Reason C is not correct. Landscaping items like shrubs and trees are not considered part of the dwelling structure itself. Reason D is not correct. An outdoor swimming pool is a separate structure covered under other structures not included in coverage A. Question 17. Under coverage A, dwelling of an SOHO 3 homeowners policy, losses are covered on an open perils basis except for specific exclusions. Which of the following losses would typically be covered by coverage A? A. Damage from gradual settling of the foundation. B. Water damage from sudden plumbing leak. C. Collapse due to defective design. D. Exterior hail damage to the roofing material. The correct answer is D. Coverage A on an HO. 3 form provides open peril protection, and exterior hail damage to the structure is covered unless specifically excluded. Reason A is not correct. Gradual settling of a foundation is excluded under open perils and not covered by coverage A. Reason B is not correct. Water damage from sudden plumbing leaks is excluded under open perils and falls under a named peril if endorsed. Reason C is not correct. Collapse due to defective design is excluded since design flaws are not covered. Perils under coverage A. Question 18. A public adjuster is reviewing a homeowner's claim under an HO3 policy after a section of the dwelling collapsed. Following the failure of a support beam that had been weakened by years of undetected wood rot due to a small, continuous roof leak. Which exclusion in coverage A applies and would most likely result in denial of the claim? A. Collapse from weight of ice, snow, or sleet. B. Wear and tear, deterioration, and decay. C. Damage caused by vandalism. D. Fire and lightning damage. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that losses resulting from wear and tear, deterioration, and decay are excluded under coverage A. The beam's failure was due to long-term rot and a lack of maintenance, fitting this exclusion. Reason A is not correct. Collapse from ice, snow, or sleet is covered under the additional coverage for collapse, so it would not be denied. Reason C is not correct. Vandalism is a covered peril under an HO3 policy, so this would not trigger an exclusion. Reason D is not correct. Fire and lightning are insured perils under coverage A and are not excluded. Question 19. A public adjuster inspecting a property observes the following other structures on a homeowner's premises. An unheated detached workshop used solely for personal hobbies located 25 feet from the dwelling. A fenced enclosure holding livestock. a utility shed joined to the main house by a covered breezeway, and an above-ground swimming pool. Under coverage B of a standard HO3 policy, which of these structures would be eligible for additional coverage? A. The fenced livestock enclosure. B. The above-ground swimming pool. C. The utility shed connected by a breezeway. D. The detached workshop used for hobbies. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is the detached workshop, because coverage B applies to structures detached from the dwelling and used for personal, non-commercial purposes. The livestock enclosure is excluded as an agricultural structure. The pool is personal property rather than a structure defined under coverage B, and the shed connected by a breezeway is considered part of the dwelling under coverage A. Reason A is not correct. Agricultural structures such as livestock enclosures are excluded under coverage B. Reason B is not correct. An above-ground pool is considered personal property, not an insured structure under coverage B. Reason C is not correct. A shed attached by a breezeway is treated as part of the dwelling and covered under coverage A, not B. Question 20. Under an unendorsed SOHO3 homeowners policy in Tennessee, what is the standard sublimit for theft losses to jewelry, watches, pearls, precious and semi-precious stones, and furs, including their alterations and trimming, in any one occurrence? A. $1,000. B. $2,500. C. $1,500. D. $5,000. The correct answer is C. The standard sublimit under HO3 policy for theft losses to jewelry, watches, pearls, precious and semi-precious stones, and furs, including alterations and trimming, is $1,500 per occurrence. Other figures apply to different property categories or require endorsements. Reason A is not correct. This amount is below the ISOHO3 sublimit for these items. The correct sublimit is higher. Reason B is not correct. This figure corresponds to the firearms or silverware sublimit, not jewelry and furs. Reason D is not correct. This amount would only apply if the items were individually scheduled and higher limits purchased by endorsement. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.